Welcome back to Bargirl Baddies. Today's story is one that will make you think twice before cashing out your life savings and chasing a retirement dream halfway across the world. It's about a bloke named Graham, a 58-year-old former electrician from Perth, Western Australia, who thought he'd finally found what he'd been missing his whole life. Love, respect, a fresh start. A woman who saw him for who he really was. But what Graham didn't see, what he refused to see for nearly 4 years, was that he wasn't building a life with someone. He was funding one. And by the time he realised it, his house was gone, his truck was gone, and his retirement money had vanished into the Thai countryside like morning mist over a rice paddy. Graham sent us his story a few months back. He didn't want pity. He wanted to warn the next guy. The next lonely man scrolling through expat forums at 3 a.m, convincing himself that Thailand is the answer to problems that have nothing to do with geography. So before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. If you've had a similar experience or know someone who has, hit that like button and subscribe. Graham's story isn't unique. That's what makes it so damn important. Alright, let's hear from Graham himself. I don't know where to start, mate, so I'll just say it plain. I'm 58 years old. I'm back in Australia, sleeping on my mate Davo's couch in Brisbane, and I've got about 12 grand to my name. 4 years ago, I had a house, a truck, and close to $400,000 in super and savings. Now I've got nothing. And the worst part, one saw it coming. I just didn't want to believe it. Let me take you back to where this all started. Perth, 2019. I'd been working as an electrician since I was 22. Good job, steady work, nothing glamorous. But it paid the bills and then some. I had a wife, Sharon, 2 kids, a mortgage on a decent place in Baldivis. For a long time, I thought I had it all sorted. Then the kids grew up, moved out, stopped calling unless they needed something. Sharon and we'd been coasting for years, just going through the motions. Then one day she sits me down and says she wants a divorce. No big fight, no affair that I knew of. She just didn't want to be married to me anymore. Said she felt like she'd been living with a stranger. The divorce gutted me. Financially, emotionally, all of it. She got the house. I got a shitty little unit in Rockingham and whatever was left of my super after the lawyers took their cut. The kids barely spoke to me. I'd go to work, come home, crack a beer, and sit in front of the telly until I passed out. That was my life. 54 years old, and I felt like I'd already died. I just hadn't been buried yet. Then, one arvo, my mate Jono, comes over with his laptop. He's been watching these YouTube videos about blokes retiring in Thailand. Shows me all these channels with guys my age, living in nice condos, beautiful women half their age on their arms, spending a fraction of what it costs to live in Australia. They're talking about how respected older men are over there, how your pension goes 10 times further, how the weather's always warm and the people are always smiling. Jomo's going on about how we should do it, cash out, live like kings. I laughed it off at first, but that night, after he left, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I started watching those videos myself. Hours and hours of them. Blokes from Australia, England, America, all saying the same thing. Thailand changed their lives. They felt young again. They felt wanted. I watched videos of Pattaya, Phuket, Chiang Mai. I saw the beaches, the night markets, the cheap beer, the easy smiles. And yeah, I saw the women. Beautiful women who didn't look at you like you were a burden or a paycheck or a disappointment. I know how that sounds. I'm not an idiot, but when you've been made to feel invisible for years, when your own wife looks through you like you're a piece of furniture, you start believing that maybe, just maybe, there's a place where you matter. So I made a plan. I sold the unit, cashed out my super early, took the tax hit, didn't care. I figured I'd rather live 10 good years in Thailand than 30 more miserable ones in Perth. I told the kids. They didn't try to stop me. I think they were relieved, to be honest. One less thing to worry about. I bought a one-way ticket to Bangkok, then a bus down to Pattaya, and I left Australia with about 400,000 Australian dollars, 2 suitcases, and a head full of hope. I'll never forget stepping off that bus in Pattaya. It was February, middle of the day, and the heat hit me like opening an oven door. The air smelled like grilled meat and exhaust fumes and something floral I couldn't name. Motorbikes everywhere, weaving through traffic like water through rocks. Neon signs in Thai and English. Bars with girls out front calling to every foreign bloke walking past. It was overwhelming and exciting, and exactly what I needed. I felt alive for the first time in years. I rented a small condo in Jomtien, just south of the main Pattaya chaos. 1 bedroom, decent view, about 12,000 baht a month, which was like 500 Aussie bucks. Cheaper than my phone bill back home, I swear. I bought a cheap motorbike, started exploring. I'd wake up whenever I wanted, ride down to the beach, sit at a little cafe and watch the waves. No alarm clocks. No boss. No ex-wife's voice in my head telling me I wasn't enough. I was free. I started going to the same beachside bar most afternoons. Nothing fancy, just plastic chairs and a thatched roof and cold singar for 50 baht. The staff got to know me. I met other expats, mostly blokes my age, all with similar stories. Divorce, loneliness, second chances. We'd sit there for hours, talking shit, watching the sun drop into the ocean like a coin into a slot. For the first 6 months, I didn't think about Australia once. I didn't miss it. I didn't miss anything. Then I met Noi. It was at a little restaurant near my condo, not one of the bars. That felt important to me at the time. She wasn't wearing heels and a tight dress trying to get customers to buy her drinks. She was just working, serving food, smiling at everyone. She was 38, which seemed reasonable, not some 20-year-old bargirl. She had a kind face, a quick laugh, and she didn't treat me like a walking ATM. We started chatting. My Thai was terrible, her English wasn't great, but we made it work. She'd bring me extra spring rolls, tease me about how much chili I could handle. It felt normal. It felt real. One night after her shift, I asked if she wanted to grab a drink. She said yes. We went to a quiet bar away from the tourist strip, and we just talked. She told me about her life. She grew up in Isan, one of the poorest regions in Thailand. Her parents were rice farmers. She'd come to Pattaya years ago to make money to send back home. She'd been married before, to a Thai guy who drank too much and hit her, so she left. She had no kids. She was alone, just like me. I don't know if it was the beer, or the loneliness, or just the fact that someone was actually listening to me, but I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt seen. We started seeing each other regularly. She'd finish work and come to my condo. We'd cook together, watch Thai soap operas I didn't understand, ride my motorbike out to quieter beaches where the tourists didn't go. She taught me a few words in Thai. I taught her how to say good day and called her darling, which made her laugh every time. It sounds stupid, but I fell for her. Properly. Not because she was beautiful, though she was. Not because she made me feel young, though she did. I fell for her because she made me feel like I wasn't a failure. Like my life wasn't over. Like I still had something to offer. About 3 months in, she took me to meet her family. We drove 8 hours north to her village in Buriram. It was nothing like Pattaya. Dirt roads, wooden houses on stilts, chickens running around, rice fields stretching to the horizon. Her parents lived in a small house with a tin roof and no air conditioning. They didn't speak any English, but they welcomed me like I was royalty. Her mum cooked this massive feast, grilled pork, sticky rice, som tam, stuff I'd never even heard of. Her dad poured me lau khao, this homemade rice whiskey that could strip paint, and we toasted even though we couldn't talk. Noi translated, told me they were happy she'd found a good man, someone who'd take care of her. I felt 10 feet tall. That night, lying on a thin mattress under a mosquito net, listening to the sounds of the village, dogs barking, roosters crowing even though it was midnight, I thought to myself, this is it. This is what I was looking for. I wasn't running away anymore. I was running towards something, toward a life that meant something, towards someone who needed me. Noi started talking about the future. She said she wanted to build a house for her parents, something proper, with concrete walls and a real roof. She said it was her dream, to give them comfort after all the years they'd struggled. She never asked me for money. She just talked about it like a distant wish, something she hoped would happen someday. And I thought, why not? I've got the money. I've got nothing else to spend it on. Why not make her dream come true? Why not be the kind of man who makes things happen? Looking back now, I can see how perfectly it was all set up, how every piece fell into place like dominoes. But at the time, I didn't see a trap. I saw love. I saw a woman who'd been through hell, just like me, and I saw a chance to be her hero. That's the thing nobody tells you about loneliness. It doesn't make you stupid. It makes you willing. Willing to believe. Willing to ignore the small voice in the back of your head that says slow down, ask questions, protect yourself. Because protecting yourself means staying alone. And I'd been alone long enough. 6 months after I met Noi, we got married. Nothing fancy, just a small ceremony at the village temple with her family and a few of the locals. I wore a traditional Thai shirt she bought me, felt like a bit of a clown if I'm honest, but she said I looked handsome and that was enough. Her parents seemed genuinely happy. There were monks chanting, flower garlands, sticky rice and roasted chicken afterward. The whole thing probably cost me about 50,000 baht, maybe 2 grand Australian. Her family asked for sinsod, the dowry, which Noi had explained to me beforehand. She said it was tradition, a show of respect, and that her parents would give most of it back after the ceremony. They asked for 300,000 baht. I paid it without blinking. Some of it came back. Some didn't. I didn't ask. I didn't want to seem cheap or disrespectful. This was her culture. I was the outsider. I figured it was the price of admission to a life I actually wanted to live. After the wedding, Noi started talking more seriously about building a house. We were still renting my condo in Jomtien, but she said it didn't make sense to keep throwing money away on rent when we could build something permanent, something that was ours. She wanted to build in her village, near her parents, where land was cheap and we could live like royalty on my pension. She painted this picture of a quiet life. A big house with a garden, maybe some chickens, me drinking coffee on the porch every morning while she cooked breakfast. No traffic, no noise, just peace. And I bought it. Completely. I was so tired of the Pattaya scene anyway. The drunken expats, the bars, the whole sad circus of it. The idea of a quiet village life sounded perfect. So we started planning. Noi said her parents had land we could build on, about 2 rai, which is decent size. She explained that foreigners can't own land in Thailand, which I already knew from the forums, but that it was fine because we were married and the land could be in her name and the house would be ours together. She said everyone does it this way. And I'd seen enough YouTube videos of expats living in houses their Thai wives owned to think, yeah, that's just how it works here. You've got to trust someone eventually, right? And I trusted her. She was my wife. We'd stood in front of monks and made promises. I thought that meant something. We drew up plans with a local builder. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a big open kitchen and living area, tiled floors, air conditioning in the bedrooms, a covered carport, proper Western-style place, not a traditional Thai house. The quote came in at about 4 million baht. I converted it in my head, about 160 grand Australian. I had the money. I'd sold my unit for more than that back in Perth. So I wired the funds from my Australian account into Noi's Thai bank account in stages as the builder needed it. Foundation, walls, roof, fixtures. Every month, another chunk of my savings going into concrete and tiles and her name on a land title. The build took about 8 months. I'd go up to the village every few weeks to check progress, and it was exciting, I'll admit. Watching something rise out of nothing, knowing I was building a future. The locals all knew me, called me PI, older brother, and Noi's dad would bring me out to the site, and we'd stand there in the heat, him pointing at things and talking in Thai I didn't understand, both of us nodding like we were having a proper conversation. I felt useful. I felt like I belonged. While the house was being built, I made another decision. I shipped my truck over from Australia. A 2012 Toyota Hilux, white, barely a scratch on it. I'd bought it new, taken care of it like it was my child. It was the one thing from my old life I couldn't let go of. Shipping it cost me nearly 10 grand with all the import fees and taxes, but I didn't care. I wanted a piece of home, something that was mine. When it finally arrived at the port in Laem Chabang, I nearly cried. Seeing that Hilux rolled off the transport truck felt like a reunion with an old mate. But here's the thing, and this is where I started making decisions I can't take back. To register the truck in Thailand, it needed to be in a Thai national's name. Noi said it was easier, cleaner, less paperwork if it was just in her name, since she already had a Thai license and I was still on an international permit. She promised it didn't matter, that married couples share everything anyway, and that I'd be the one driving it, so what's the difference? And I agreed. I signed the papers, put my truck, my beloved Hilux I'd worked years to pay off, into her name. Just like the house, just like the land, just like everything. We moved into the house in late 2021. It was beautiful, I'll give it that. Exactly what we'd planned. Spacious, cool, modern. Noi's parents came over every day. Her mum cooking in our kitchen, her dad watching Thai news on our TV. I didn't mind at first, they were family. But then, Noi's younger brother, Somchai, moved into the 3rd bedroom. She said it was temporary, that he was looking for work and just needed a place to stay for a month or two. I said fine. What else was I going to say? It was her family. Her house. Well, legally it was entirely her house. Months went by. Somchai didn't leave. He didn't work either. He'd sleep until noon, play games on his phone, eat the food I paid for, and occasionally borrow my truck without asking. I'd come home and the hillocks would be gone, and Noi would say, "Oh, Somchai just went to town, he'll be back soon." It started to irritate me, but I didn't push it. I didn't want to be the angry Farang, the tight-ass foreigner who couldn't share, so I let it slide. I fell into a routine. I'd wake up, have coffee, maybe drive into the nearest town to meet up with a couple other expats at a bar. We'd drink through the afternoon, tell the same stories, complain about the heat, the bureaucracy, our wives' families. I was drinking more than I ever had in Australia. Every day by 2 in the afternoon, I'd be 3 or 4 beers deep. It didn't feel like a problem, because everyone was doing it. It just felt like retirement. Noi and I started drifting. The excitement of the new house wore off. She'd spend more time on her phone, always messaging someone, always laughing at some private joke I wasn't part of. When I'd ask who she was talking to, she'd say friends, family, none of your business in a tone that made it clear I shouldn't ask again. We stopped having sex. We stopped having real conversations. I'd tried to talk to her about maybe travelling together, going to the islands, doing something as a couple, and she'd say she was too busy. Her parents needed help, maybe later. Later never came. I started noticing money disappearing faster than it should. I'd given Noi access to my Thai bank account for household expenses, which seemed reasonable since she was doing the shopping and paying the bills. But I'd check the balance and there'd be withdrawals I didn't recognise. 20,000 baht here, 15,000 there. When I asked, she'd say it was for her mother's medicine, or fixing the roof at her parents' house, or something for the village temple. And I'd feel like a bastard for even questioning it. What kind of man begrudges helping his wife's family? So I stopped asking. But deep down, I knew. I knew something was off. I just didn't want to face it. Because facing it meant admitting I'd made a mistake. Admitting I'd put everything I owned into a situation I had no control over. Admitting that maybe this wasn't love, maybe it never was. And that thought was so unbearable, so humiliating, that I'd rather drink another beer and pretend everything was fine. Then one night, about 3.5 years after I'd met Noi, I woke up around 2 in the morning. She wasn't in bed. I could hear her voice outside, talking on the phone in the carport. I got up, walked quietly to the window, and I saw her. She was leaning against my truck, my hillocks, laughing in that way she used to laugh with me. But she was speaking Thai, fast and flirty, and I heard a man's voice on the other end of the call, faint through the speaker. I don't speak Thai well, but I know the tone of intimacy. I know what flirtation sounds like in any language. My chest went tight. I stood there in the dark, watching my wife through the window, and I felt everything I'd been ignoring come crashing down at once. I didn't confront her that night. I went back to bed and lay there staring at the ceiling until sunrise. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted there to be an explanation, so I waited. Over the next week, I paid closer attention. She was on her phone constantly. She started going to her sister's house more, staying overnight, saying her sister needed help with the kids. She stopped cooking for me. Stopped asking about my day. We were living in the same house, but we were strangers. Worse than strangers. At least strangers have the possibility of connection. We had nothing left but proximity. Then it happened. I came home one afternoon from the bar, bit drunk, and she was sitting at the kitchen table waiting for me. She had this calm, almost businesslike expression on her face. She said, "We needed to talk." My stomach dropped. I sat down. She didn't waste time. She said she wasn't happy. Said she'd been thinking about it for a long time. Said she wanted a divorce. I felt like I'd been punched. I asked her why, what did I do, can we fix this? She just shook her head, said it wasn't working, said she didn't love me anymore. Didn't love me anymore, like it was something that just faded, like old paint. I asked if there was someone else. She got angry then, properly angry, said I was paranoid, said I didn't trust her, said this was exactly the problem. She turned it all around on me. Made me feel like I was the one ruining everything. I didn't know what to do. I begged. I actually begged her to reconsider. Told her we could go to counselling. We could travel. We could move back to Pattaya if she wanted. She just looked at me with something like pity and said, "No, it's over." The next week, she told me she'd already spoken to a lawyer. Said the divorce would be simple since we didn't have kids. I asked about the house. She said it was in her name, on her family's land, so obviously it was hers. I said, "But I paid for it. I paid for everything." She said that was my choice, a gift, and that under Thai law I had no claim. I asked about the truck, same answer. Her name, her property. I went to see a lawyer myself, a guy in town who spoke English and dealt with Farang problems. He looked over everything, the land title, the truck registration, our marriage certificate. Then he looked at me with this tired expression, like he'd seen this exact situation 100 times before, and said, "Mate, you've got nothing, no prenup, no usufruct agreement, no proper foreign ownership structure. The house is hers, the truck is hers. If you want to fight it, you'll spend whatever money you have left on legal fees, and you'll still lose." I asked what my options were. He said leave before it gets ugly. 2 days later, Noi changed the locks. I came back from town and my key didn't work. I knocked on the door. Sonchai answered, her brother, and he told me in broken English that I needed to go, that this wasn't my house. I could see Noi inside, on the couch, on her phone. She didn't even look up. I asked for my things. Sonchai let me in, watched me pack 2 suitcases, and then walked me to the gate. There were a couple other village men there, just standing around, making it clear I wasn't welcome to argue. And that's when I saw him. A young Thai guy, maybe early 30s, sitting on the porch. My porch. The porch I paid for. He was drinking a beer, scrolling through his phone, totally comfortable. He looked up at me, nodded, like we were mates. Noi came out then, stood next to him, put her hand on his shoulder. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. I stood there at the gate with my 2 suitcases, looking at the house I'd built, the truck I'd shipped halfway across the world, and the woman I'd married, and I realized I'd lost everything. Not in some dramatic blow-up, not in a fight, just in a quiet, planned, efficient transfer of assets from a lonely foreign man to a woman who saw an opportunity and took it. I got a taxi to the bus station, took a bus to Bangkok, flew back to Australia 3 days later with about $15,000 left in my account and nothing else.